my entire life, I always knew that there was some level of a calling on my life. I always just thought it was music. I thought music was like the place God had me at. I didn't realize that it wasn't just music, but there was also ministry. Like in my life, I've always had like glimpse of just, ministry from the teaching and the preaching of the word. I've always had those glimpses, but never had the full view of it. But in my life, I've been doing music. I mean, that's all I've known. That's all I enjoy. It's my safe place. And for God to keep knocking on the door and saying, hey, there's more than just music, but there's ministry even in the midst of music. I was like, okay, wow, here we go. So I knew there was a call, and God just kept knocking, like, Nate, what are you doing? Nate, I'm calling you. Nate, I'm calling you. And it wasn't really until I really answered the call and said, okay, God, I'm ready to move forward. That's really even when things musically and everything in my life, doors just start opening up so fast. So I always knew I was called, but there's a difference between knowing you were called and then accepting the call.
When you told me that we were going to start a church, my first thoughts were, what? We're going to start a church. We have 4 kids. We have a business on the side, a full-time job, each of us in a full-time job. When are we going to have time to start a church? And when you were, talking to me, telling me, the hook, line, and sinker was when you said, God's given me everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Everything and more. He blessed me with a wife. He's blessed me with children. He's blessed me with this house. And this is the one thing that he's asking of me. Just this one thing. And I just looked at him and I'm like, okay, where do we start? I mean, you can't fight that. I've always known that, I do know that you have a calling. I just didn't think that my calling was tied to yours.
Yeah, it
so
is.
but yeah, no, I thought you were a little nuts when you said, let's start a church. But after you explained, this is the one thing that God's asking you to do after he's blessed you abundantly. And this is the one thing he's asking you to do. I said, okay, all right, where do we start?
Let's do it. So once we decided that we were going to start the church, I remember like saying, let's go to this conference called ARC. Yeah, that's a great conference. It seems like it's good for church start, church plant. Let's get as much as information we can. So we got on a plane, we flew down, we sat back, we took in, we absorbed so much. And I'll never forget at the very end of the conference, this older guy, like he was real old. I guess he was like one of the elders there. You could tell he was an elder because he came out of nowhere and they start playing music behind him. So I said, oh, he been here for a while and saved. And he was praying over people, laying hands over people. And he just looked at me and he said, listen, you have to start. He said, God's giving you the vision. God's giving you the vision. Nobody else needs to tell you. You have to start. You have to start now. And we started. And that's how the journey actually began. So why did I call it Discover Church? I really didn't have it called Discover Church. You remember, it was actually going to be called Christian Family Church because I'm just like a big proponent on families. I love families. And I also hate when I see the enemy like try to destroy families at the same time. So I have this passion. But me and Trina were talking.
So we went to ARC and we wrote down what our church name was going to be. And when we wrote Christian Family Church, someone in ARC said, hey, this is a great name. We like it, but you don't want to seem exclusive. You want someone who's single, someone who's young, without a family to feel like they're still welcome. So we started having a conversation about, okay, well, what do we want to call our church? And it's got to be something that appeals to everyone, right? And I started thinking, okay, well, the average person who doesn't know God yet, what are they seeking? What's something that they would recognize, something that translates well to the person coming off the street who does not have a relationship with God. And I started thinking, okay, discover your relationship with God. And I think we like penned and inked some names on a piece of paper, and discover was the one that jumped out at you, and you were like, yes, I've got it. Discover God, discover you,
discover purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we started. So we're really excited. Yeah.